The story of La Huerta, we just heard it from Mr. Arteaga, stands in stark contrast to the one we had heard before. Embrace is a very dynamic startup bent on radical innovation through disruptive models. La Huerta, on the other hand, has a very different approach, that of extending existing business models with a more inclusive approach, bringing it to lower and lower strata. A model which is also called as the Anchor model, has not been very much portrayed in the US-based BOP literature, but as we just heard, can be very effective in bringing about change. By the way, this is the prevailing BOP model in Latin America. And when I say extending existing business model, we should not interpret that as being an easy or low-hanging fruit. On the contrary, as we just heard from Mr. Arteaga, to do it right, you need to invest in education, in technical assistance, in financial assistance, and when you do it right, as we just heard, I think it can be very successful in unleashing the dormant energy, the entrepreneurial capacity that lies at the bottom of the pyramid, which of course was also very much part of CK's original vision of change. We are now going to hear from Mr. Jose Luis Contreras, the CEO of Aon Bolivia. He heads the micro-insurance practice group at Aon Corporation. We're a world-leading provider of risk transfer and management solution, and he is the CEO of Aon Bolivia. In 2009, Aon entered the micro-insurance sector in Bolivia and developed its own profitable business model. Jose Luis, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Do I have the clicker? Okay. Well, it's a privilege for me to be here and honor CK Prahalad's legacy, and thank you very much, Dennis, for inviting me. Right. Trying to get you into the framework, into the mindset, sorry, with which we started microinsurance. It's definitely countercurrent. It's definitely disruptive in its nature. And what we faced is pretty much what Tolstoy specifically spells there, that everybody thought we were, if you can't make money in a $10 a month premium payment, why would you do or want to be in a segment that is only paying $1 a month? And then, of course, it's about the dominant logic that runs, or pretty much still runs, the insurance sector in my country and probably elsewhere. The fact that we're always doing things looking at the rear mirror. What happened before we think is going to be, or should be, the blueprint for what's going to happen next. And of course, that's not the case. We create value, we create our own opportunities, and we're bullish on that, and that's what we did at Aon with microinsurance, MI. So basically what we found is that there are obviously products, there's distribution, there's execution. And in terms of products in microinsurance, we found that it was just an incrementalism issue, where it was just a scaling down from a $10 per month premium to a $1, etc. That's what the insurance companies came up with. It was price driven. It was not very much else happening in terms of actual innovation. So we found that the way in which microinsurance products were developed was basically incrementalism. Distribution, there's something in the industry that's called the partner-agent model. Basically, the microfinance institution would partner up with the insurance company. And because one has the insurance expertise and the other one has the client, that somehow that would work. Now, obviously, there are huge asymmetries between what the insurance company knows and what the MFI wants, and obviously the client. So there was a mismatch there in that asymmetry in trying to get insurance products to people who are literally having loans at microfinance institutions of $200, $300, $400 balance. So really to get them to spend, whether it was 50 cents or $1 a month, created an opportunity for us, an opportunity gap, as CK would have argued, in terms of new ways to enter into distribution. As brokers, we obviously are in the distribution business, so we got the product side and said they're not being developed, in our opinion, appropriately, and they're not being distributed efficiently. We need to break that paradigm. And in execution, what we found is that, yes, it's about profits, but there's very little talk, or there has been very little talk or material on sustainability. Is microinsurance sustainable? And the data is not there yet. Market size, we're told, is about 3 billion market size for the whole world. Microinsurance is a huge number, but we have very little detail on what's going on there. And then there's best practices. What the donor community has done is put a lot of money into trying to establish what those best practices are, excuse me, in terms of trying to get the best opportunities and replicate them elsewhere. And finally, in our opinion, that's all about adaptive and incremental change. So in products from our end, we see sameness, pretty much the same. There's no product qualitative difference in terms of products. We see distribution presumptuous. It presumes that because you get an MFI and an insurance company that things will happen, and obviously that's not the case. It's far more complex to develop that. And obviously in execution, the question is, are we really helping the poor with micro insurance? So in terms of sameness, there's an opportunity to be different, radically so. There's a how did we get there? Basically because the community, the insurance community, traditional as they are generally in my country and elsewhere, we're asking the same questions over and over again, and not necessarily targeting specifically what could be done in terms of a new way of developing the business. Why would we change? Because obviously, why change if apparently it's going well and there's a lot of money from the donor community and we're doing good in terms of getting microinsurance to the bottom of the pyramid? Well, obviously, it's getting crowded. It's become a commodity market, i.e., price-driven. Price is the single most determinant. And obviously, when marginal costs catches up with marginal revenue, sustainability is questioned. So we need different outcomes. We need sustainability to prove this sustainability and obviously the impact. We feel it's the partner agent model, the fact that you get an insurance company and an MFI to start doing microinsurance. As I mentioned, it has its limitations. Not the MFI's expertise is in providing loans and capturing capital and providing loans to their client base. The expertise of the insurance company should be underwriting the risk. So there's a distribution issue there that was critical to us, and that's what we did. So the emphasis is what C.K. Prakla would have called denominator management, reducing costs, try and make it as cheap as possible, as simple as possible, with obviously all the bottlenecks that has if the design, the architecture of the product is not appropriate. It's about product development. It's not about building and providing insurance solutions. So it's piecemeal. You buy life, you buy personal accidents, you may buy 2 or 3 other covers, but it's not an insurance solution to the actual purchaser. And again, there's no impact, there's no emphasis on impact or sustainability, and it doesn't address, in my opinion, the dominant logic issue. The fact is, it addresses, as the system stands, it addresses the economics behind it, they're profitable, but not the strategic issues that are important and crucial for it to have sustainability. Recent Inter-American Development Bank study, huge study, 400 pages and more, talks about successful microinsurance cases and minimum regulatory requirements. And that leads to a lot of the insurance companies in Latin America to go into a sort of what I call a plug-and-play microinsurance. You get the model, you get the best practices, and you're off and running, and you're doing microinsurance, but not necessarily addressing the critical issues, as I mentioned, sustainability and impact. I call it, in a previous conference, I called the microinsurance world as the food court. A lot of variety, but not necessarily going beyond the actual differentiation of cuisine, if you see. So what are we doing about it? What did Aon do? We explored the environment, and I take what was being said in the previous panel. It's about exploring your own environment. There's no blueprint. It's about a sense-making around an issue that you want to impact and you want to influence. And it's about using the financial capital you created in your company to actually impact strategy within your company. It's CEO-driven, and on the back of that, try and see where you can go with no blueprint, but just the determination of trying to impact. You develop products, you test them, you carry out marketing. We do front and back office for insurance, which is extremely complicated, and therefore we segment the market. The insurance company underwrites, we do front and back office, and MFIs provide us with their client base. And then we feel that through this process, we're getting information from the market and knowledge, which is versus what Prahlad would have referred to, information-rich but interpretation-poor systems. We feel that we've broken that out and can actually have information and knowledge in our different product lines. Our case was favorably reviewed by the HBR Latin American edition, December 2009, and those were the comments that I would highlight from that article. Basically, we've resolved the paradox of complexity. It's extremely complex to get very poor people to actually buy insurance, distribute that, control that, get them to get paid their losses throughout the renewal process, etc. Obviously, with people coming in and coming out of all of the different MFIs, because loans are generally short-term, six months, eight months, etc. So there's a lot of rotation. With an MFI that generally is probably their biggest asset outside the financial side is a couple of PCs running Excel spreadsheets. So how do we do that? We've managed to wrap the whole issue with our program. Basically, we have 375,000 people insured through our system. Basically, we have $1.6 million premiums. It's been extremely profitable for the MFIs. They're picking up approximately $340,000 in non-operational income by allowing us to develop their client base and access that client base for microinsurance. Brandon Matthews is the head of Zurich, which is a huge multinational insurance company, and he claims when he, in an interview, they ask him about value. Is microinsurance providing value, and does a value come up to clients? And he mentioned that it's about profits. That's that the insurance company should perform as they expect, and that a product provides real value and is worth repeatedly purchasing. We don't think that is the right answer. We feel that value has to do, as I mentioned before, with sustainability and impact. It's not necessarily about the profits the insurance company makes. That's extremely important, but if you don't have this strategic issues on sustainability and impact, I think Zurich is missing the point. The future, it's about education, it's about aid, donors, to what extent are donors helping the effort. In my opinion, they're skewing the industry to think that it's doable, and as I mentioned before, this idea of plug and play, that if I get the best practices, etc., we can do microinsurance, and that's doable, and that's something that we've accomplished. I think the donor community should be much more focused on the strategic aspects of what's going on. Finally, focus groups. It's about, in our opinion, it's not about asking what the client wants. It's about dazzling the client with a solution. It's about going to market with something new, with something innovating, testing on the back of sense making, and putting that in front of the client and seeing if they are willing to take that up. And that's a picture I picked up in a microinsurance conference a couple of years ago, whereby clients would say they want to be fit, but at the end of and probably pay something, a fee to go to that fitness club, but when they get there, they'll take the escalator. And that is what clients do, isn't it? They don't know what they want, so it's up to us not to ask them, but it's up to us to provide them with something wow, something that will change their lives, and that's something that you have to, that sense-making behind that, in our opinion, is crucial. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.